Pedro, thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. How pumped are you that baseball's back?
I'm still in the surprise state a little bit, right? I mean, there were we had to prepare for the possibility that it wasn't going to be back right now. So it's the fact that it is, the fact that we're just hours essentially away from opening day, from watching Shohei Ohtani pitches is wild, and it just came on real fast. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, man. This day, Thursday, can't get here fast enough. So, hey, what I want to start with you, we're talking NL West, is some storylines. When you look at the National League West as a whole, let's start with your first one. What would a storyline be in the National League West this year?
Well, okay. So this is like not exactly groundbreaking, but you might recall, anyone watching this, that last year there was a pretty tense tussle to decide the division winner between the two best teams in baseball, and I think they're both geared up for another run. And so the answer for me is part two, Dodgers Giants. And can they win 213 games again between them? Probably not. Can they get to 200? Maybe. I think either way, this figures to be a really fun, like thorough battle between these two squads that are built in similar ways, that both rely on really superlative depth. And I'm very curious to see how it goes. I think no one would have expected the Giants to win a game more than the Dodgers last year, let alone 107 games. And so the fact that that's possible, that they can, that we know they can get to those levels, I think it forces you to really live in a little bit of uncertainty when you're projecting this upcoming season.
So as in the Giants, their win total this year is around 89 and a half, 90 wins. So why is that? Do you believe they're going to overperform that? Do you think they're going to be not as good as they were last year, but do you think they vastly overperform from that number?
Vastly, I would guess no. I would guess no. I think that the projection systems were actually somewhat high on them last year too. Going into the season, it's just that you wouldn't have found a single person in baseball who would have projected the Giants for over 105 wins last season.
Absolutely not.
That's just I refuse to believe anyone in the world would have done that. Let alone even their people in charge of their organization. So 90 wins, being projected to win something like 90 games is not a criticism of your roster. It's not it's an honor essentially. And so I still think, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they beat that projection by a little bit. The projections are in some ways limited. They don't take into account that the Giants are really good at fixing essentially any issues that arise during a season. They don't realize that if for example they're not getting any production out of left field, they're going to go out and acquire a left fielder. They will not stomach 6 weeks of poor play out of any position. They are going to find solutions. They're going to mine the waiver wire. They're going to to bring in people who aren't part of the roster right now, and that's not really projectable in a computer sense.
Yeah.
So I think they'll be better than that. I still think I still think the Dodgers will be better, but I still retain the ability to be surprised if I'm wrong again.
Okay. All right. So Dodgers, Giants, part two, storyline number one. What's another storyline for you?
I'm going San Diego in their rotation specifically. They're obviously they have some hitting talent there, but they're losing a lot of it with Fernando Tatis Jr. out for at least a couple months here. And so my storyline is can the rotation carry them into wild card contention? There's the potential there that there's 5 or so top 50 starters in the sport between, Darvish, Snell, Clevenger, goes on and on. There's a lot. And Musgrove, who was their best guy last year. And I think, theoretically, you can imagine a world in which that's the best rotation in the division. And if that's the best rotation in the division, the lineup holds its own. Tatis comes back in June. I can see that team winning 90 plus. And, you may only have to win 90 or so to be a legitimate wild card contender this year. I also could see it going awry, right? Like it did last year. I'm not certain how, what is Yu Darvish right now? What is Blake Snell right now? We just don't know. But I think it's intriguing enough to keep your eye on it all season long. It's even out of the gate here when they break out an interesting rotation.
Yeah, I think people are undervaluing Bob Melvin and what he brings to a team and an organization. He has been brilliant in Oakland with a team that, to be honest with you, for many years didn't hold a candle to other teams on paper, but they would get it done, and I think he was a big part of that. How much of a factor do you have Bob Melvin playing with a team that is very talented? They just didn't seem last year to be able to really mesh well together, put it all together, and figure it out. I think we're undervaluing Bob Melvin with the Padres.
Well, I'm with you. I think that there were a lot of indications that Jace Tingler, their former manager, did not have a great hold on the clubhouse in terms of motivating players, in terms of maintaining a competent and solid middle ground of energy throughout the season. It fluctuated a lot between great and poor there in San Diego last year and the year before. It started really on a bad foot pretty early on in his tenure there. And so Bob Melvin has proven that he can keep things at an even keel. And I think we're just going to see fewer controversies out of San Diego this season. He knows what he's doing in terms of managing a room, and that's what he's tasked with. And I think I absolutely think that can make a difference. A couple wins here and there, and create a calmer atmosphere. Personally, my thought is that the manager is not going to be responsible for pushing this team into a division title or into the playoffs. But I think if they're close enough, he can absolutely be the deciding factor. Mm-hmm.
Less controversy, and the first thing he has to deal with when he shows up for spring training is his star player and one of the biggest stars in the league figuring out that he broke his wrist and is going to be out for a while. So that's always a tough start. Okay, so Padres pitching staff. What would be one more storyline you can give me for the NL West this year?
This one's just fun. This might be my own personal fascination, but it's Chris Bryant just toiling over there in obscurity. You've heard about his massive contract. You've heard about the Rockies' decision to give him this contract when they're not really pushing for contention in any other way. And after losing, of course, Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, Jonathan Gray, and others in the past too, they've let some high-priced players of their own go, and then they went out and acquired a extremely high-priced free agent. I think the ballpark will be a great home for him in terms of like pure ability to hit homers, and this guy can do that. He hasn't necessarily done it a lot in the last couple seasons, but I still believe in him, and I think that we could see some crazy statistics there. Not that I expect any of them to impact the division race really at all whatsoever, but 45, 50 homers, I think it's possible.
All right, that's fair. I like that. Okay, so that leads me into a good question that I have for you. When you look at the NL West, let's name 3 of your top players in the NL West that you're excited to watch this year.
You might have heard of him, Ben. I believe his name's Freddie Freeman. He's a new acquisition in the division. Yeah, pretty good player. Seen him a lot in the playoffs in recent seasons, and I think
yes,
I think having him at first base as a stalwart in the middle of that Dodgers lineup is going to be intimidating. And I think I enjoy watching the man hit. I think he's one of the purest, most enjoyable hitting at bats to watch in the sport. I mean, up there in the top 5 for me. Like, if you splice together 2 hours of his at bats, would I tune out? No, absolutely not. And so I think having him there for 600 plus plate appearances is a pretty enticing thing. I think he's and the Dodgers are sort of. I think it's super interesting how they replaced a shortstop with a first baseman. Between Corey Seager and Freddie Freeman, they're sliding over the rest of the infield to accommodate that, and how really they might not be any worse defensively as a result, and they actually might be better. And it's like, how could this happen? And it's a testament to the Dodgers' depth and flexibility and versatility they built across their roster, that they can replace a shortstop with a first baseman.
Okay, so Freddie Freeman is 1. Frederick. Oh, good old Frederick. All right, who you got next?
I mentioned him briefly earlier. I'll take Blake Snell. I think there's just a lot of uncertainty about what he is as a pitcher. And I think, if he's, anywhere near the Cy Young type he's been in the past, all of a sudden that Padres rotation I was talking about looks a lot more threatening. But if he's the mid-4 ERA, nearly 5 walks per 9 starter he was last year, that's a lot harder to start to see them really challenge for the playoffs. And so he hasn't done much this spring. But this is still a young man. This is still a guy with great strikeout potential. Even last year, amid his struggles, he was striking out. I think it's close to 12 per nine. So it's not like the stuff is suddenly hit him. It's just a matter of can he harness it. And I think that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Okay, Freddie Freeman, Blake Snell, two good choices there. Let's get one more top player to watch in the NL West.
Lamont Wade, late night Lamont in San Francisco. Yeah, can he repeat anything close to what he did last year in terms of the success, in terms of the pure good fortune, in terms of coming up in big spots and doing it? And maybe he'll prove that it wasn't all pure good fortune and some metal that he has within him. But I think I'm just interested in watching the part two of that, him specifically, and in the Giants. He was a big part of their platoon success last year, their part-time player success. And I think as he goes, we might see the rest of the Giants lineup follow. And I think I'm just interested to see, when the first 10:45 p.m. at bat comes up where he's, he has the ability to win it for the Giants. Is he going to win it?
Yep. Good. I like that. I like those answers. So this question, little different for you here. This is for people listening that may not be the most diehard. I know every prospect ever, and I know when they debut. So this question for you is: who are 3 players that you're excited to watch that are maybe rookies or newcomers? Just names that people need to know in the NL West this year.
Yeah, I'll go first with there's a lot, first of all, but I'll go first with Bobby Miller, a Dodgers right-handed pitching prospect who they drafted in 2020, and since then he's throwing harder, and his breaking pitches are getting sharper with every time he pops up, and he's improved. And this spring, scouts are saying that they're timing his fastball in triple digits. I've heard 101, I've heard 102, and this is a still inexperienced but really potential-filled right-hander, and the Dodgers have shown an ability to extract a lot out of these pitchers. I think he's not going to start the season anywhere near the major leagues, but I would not be surprised at all if he proves to be an impact pitcher down the stretch, sometime in maybe August, September, perhaps October, and I think he's a big one.
Okay, perhaps a big playoff implications down the line. So, all right, good one. What do you got next?
Let's go with Geraldo Perdomo. He's he looks like the Diamondbacks shortstop of the future. We haven't mentioned the Diamondbacks yet, I don't think, because they're not that relevant, in the division race. But I think, not that Perdomo's going to be no one's expecting him to be a superstar straight away, but the Diamondbacks' longtime shortstop Nick Ahmed looks to be hurt, and I think they're going to slot Perdomo in at the position, at least to start the season. He held his own last year down the stretch in the major leagues, and I think this is a guy who has 20 homer potential and good defense potential from the shortstop position, and that's a sneaky valuable player. He's still quite young, and I'm interested in seeing what what he amounts to right away when given a pretty good runway here. And will he force the Diamondbacks' hand? Will, when Ahmed comes back, will they have to trade Ahmed? Will they move someone to second? What will they do? They have some flexibility in their lineup with Ketel Marte as well. But Geraldo Perdomo looks to be, someone who could impact the next good Diamondbacks team.
All right, and I know you said there's a lot in the NL West, but give me one more, your favorite of the rest.
I think the best prospect in the National League West at this point is probably C.J. Abrams, the San Diego Padres shortstop, and so I got to go him. I haven't laid eyes on him that often. I think there's some talk that he could be impactful pretty soon here. Obviously, the Padres shortstop plans in the short term have changed with Fernando Tatis's injury, as you said, Ben. But if they devote the position to Abrams, out of spring training, which I think is still unlikely, or sometime shortly, that would be really fun to watch. He's a really young high school draftee who's hit and has essentially boundless potential, I think, at this point. So let's go with him.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. And all right, my last question for you. Going to put you on the spot, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth, but I'm going to assume the Rockies and the Diamondbacks are out of the equation here. Who wins the division, Pedro? Dodgers, Padres, Giants. Who you got?
I think it's one of those things. I got to stick with the Dodgers. The team has more talent assembled on their roster. Will I be surprised if the Giants pull it off for a second straight season? No, and I'm not projecting them to be bad. Nothing of the sort. But, you look at the Dodgers lineup, you look at their rotation, bullpen, their resources in case the position struggles and they can go out and trade for somebody else. I have to pick the Dodgers. I simply do. I think it's going to be something like I would project a 5 to 10 game gap between them and the Giants come season's end. But, I've been wrong before and I could be wrong again. But until as long as this team looks as talented as it is, I have to again select the Dodgers.
All right, Pedro, thank you so much for joining me. For those listening, Pedro does some incredible work for us. His writing is just incredible. Pedro Moura on Twitter. Go check him out. Check out his work. Pedro, thanks for joining me, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.